Around 600 kilometres northwest of Brisbane lies the heart of Queensland's Central Highlands, an extensive area of elevated sandstone and basalt roughly a kilometre above sea level. Over the last 27 million years, water has eroded the area into a complex network of tablelands and mountain ranges, creating some spectacularly rugged gorges. And this is the most famous of them all, Carnarvon Gorge. Gazetted in 1932, Carnarvon Gorge National Park was created to preserve and protect outstanding landscapes of high scenic value, important indigenous cultural sites, and significant elements of Queensland's geological history. In the late 1900s, the reserve expanded from the original 26,000 hectares to 298,000 hectares and changed its name to Carnarvon National Park, of which Carnarvon Gorge is now but a section. The expanded reserve has high catchment conservation value, as 5 of the state's river systems rise within its boundaries, and it is also an important reserve for biodiversity protection, as it encompasses a broad range of ecologies representative of those found in central Queensland. There is a range of walking experiences available in the gorge, and 3 days is recommended to fully explore the gorge at a comfortable pace. To plan your walks, it is useful to divide the gorge into 3 zones. The gorge mouth, which contains the Balloon Cave, Mickey Creek Gorge, Rock Pool, Nature Trail and Bulimba Bluff tracks. The lower gorge, which contains the main track and the Art Gallery, Wards Canyon, Amphitheatre and Moss Gardens tracks. And the upper gorge, which contains more of the main track, as well as Cathedral Cave, Bawinda Gorge and the Big Bend Campground. The tracks and sites in each of these zones can be visited comfortably in a day, but all involve at least 10 kilometres of walking. If you are limited in time, cover the lower gorge as your priority, and then explore whatever you can of the gorge mouth in the remainder of your stay. This will give you the best possible experience within your time constraints, and if you like what you see, then come back and knock off the rest sometime in the future. To have a look at what you're in for, we'll start at the gorge mouth and work our way in. Balloon Cave is one of 3 sites accessed from the road into the gorge. The others are Mickey Creek Gorge and the Rock Pool. Balloon Cave Track is a short walk into a small rock art site with information panels covering various aspects of local indigenous culture along the way. During the warmer months, it is worth planning visits to this site in the cooler hours of the day. Mickey Creek Gorge has around 1.5 kilometres of maintained track into a lovely side gorge system. Around a kilometre in, the trail forks and the Warumba Gorge track heads off to the right. On both these trails, signs reading "Form track ends here" are found. Some walkers have interpreted this to mean go no further. However, the rangers are merely informing you that beyond these points no work is put into maintaining the trail. You are welcome to proceed, provided you do so with appropriate care. If you are comfortable with the terrain, persist with the Warumba Gorge track, for within the next 100 metres in from the sign, Warumba turns into an impressive slot canyon. The Rock Pool is the only designated swimming hole in the park. It can be accessed from the road or via a 2-kilometre track from the bottom of the day use area. The Rock Pool is also the place that suffers most from the gorge's regular floods, as every drop of runoff has to pass through the 2 pools located here. The pools are also great places to look for wildlife. Platypus, freshwater turtles, and aquatic birds are potential sightings. The main track begins at the Information Centre and stretches 10 kilometres along the creek to Big Bend. Just over Creek Crossing 1, the Nature Trail turns off to the right. This track follows the creek for around a kilometre before returning to the bottom of the day use area. It is also a good spot to search for platypus and other wildlife. Just after the Nature Trail turn-off comes the Bulimba Bluff turn-off. If you look up towards the northern cliff line at the junction, you can see the orange-coloured bluff that is your destination. The track covers 3.2 kilometres one way, gaining 200 vertical metres in the process. There are around 960 stairs involved in the climb, so it's worthwhile walking at a pace you feel comfortable with, and take plenty of breaks along the way. The bluff gives you 2 experiences that you cannot easily get any other way. Firstly, it gives you an overview of the gorge's landscapes. Once on top of the cliff looking across the gorge to the south, you can see that the cliff line is merely the bottom third of the structure. It is actually 600 metres deep at the mouth, but the top 2/3 are so far back from the cliffs that you can't see them from many places on the gorge floor. Secondly, this walk has greater biodiversity than any other walk in the main track system. All the other tracks stick close to the gorge's creeks, whereas the bluff track takes you past the creek, up into the drier ridges and then out onto the shelf country above the cliff line. As a result, the less fit you are, the more you'll get out of this walk, because you'll stop more frequently and see all of the stuff the fit people strolled right past. Most people can get to the bluff in an hour and a half with plenty of interest stops. The return trip will take considerably less time. A good itinerary for the lower gorge is to tackle Bulimba Bluff in the morning and then visit the rest of the sites in the afternoon, leaving Balloon Cave until last if the weather is warm. When venturing into the gorge, try to think of the main track as a site in and of itself. It is along this track that many of Carnarvon's greatest cliff scenery lies, and it is here that the majority of the wildlife is concentrated along the productive areas adjacent to the creek. I always think of the main track as the guts of the gorge, and if you see it merely as the means of getting from A to B, you can deprive yourself of a large part of what this experience has to offer. When planning a day in the gorge, it pays to walk to the furthest site first, and then stop off into the other sites on the way back. This will keep you active during the coolest part of the day when you are fresh, and breaks the trip back into smaller stretches as you visit the coolest parts of the gorge during the warmest parts of the day. And should you decide to walk home early, you'll have the shortest walk back to pick them up on another day. The art gallery is best seen during the first half of the day, particularly if the weather is warm. Its boardwalk is 62 metres long and takes you past over 2,000 individual motifs, including stencils, engravings and freehand work. This is a place where having access to a ranger or a guide will definitely enhance your experience. Check with the information centre to see if one of the indigenous rangers will be on duty during your visit. The art gallery has some restricted areas, outlined on a small blue sign at the entrance to the site. It is also under constant video surveillance. These measures have been implemented to protect the site from dust and graffiti, both of which can seriously affect the preservation of the rock art. You can assist preservation efforts by remaining on the boardwalk at all times. Ward's Canyon has one of the most stable microclimates in the gorge. It is little wonder that it was chosen as a hideout and storehouse by the Ward brothers in the early 1900s. Inside its cool cloistered confines grow 13 clumps of king ferns, whose nearest relatives live on Fraser Island. These ferns have the longest fronds of any fern on Earth, and they have been on the planet virtually unchanged for the last 500 million years. The amphitheatre is one of those places that have to be experienced in person. Filming, photographing and describing can never do the place justice. Access to the last 100 metres of the track is up a 3-tiered angled ladder. This amazing feature created by water erosion is the last section of a long side gorge system that remains hidden from view above. As a result, the amphitheatre is subjected to regular floods, one of which ripped the previous ladder from the cliff wall. Walking into the moss gardens is like travelling backwards 40 million years in time. Here, within the walls of Violet and Hellhole Gorge, grow remnants of the rainforest that once cloaked large portions of central Queensland in the distant past. Sheltered by the sandstone cliffs and nurtured by the permanent springs, these plants and the animals that live amongst them have been spared the fate imposed upon their ancestors by climate change. The green-clad walls of the moss garden generate the largest spring in the gorge. For over 100 metres, the cliff produces drop after drop of moisture, and its flow has never been known to fluctuate to any great degree. Research suggests that the droplets emerging from the sandstone fell as rain from 5 to 10,000 years ago. Here, the significance of the artesian system to the gorge's ecologies becomes clear. Ever since these springs began production, the gorge's creeks have been drought-free. The upper gorge has a very different feel to the lower gorge. As you progress past crossing 10, the walls of the gorge get closer and the foot traffic diminishes. Between crossings 12 and 13, the last major rockfall in the gorge can be seen on the far side of the creek, and in places the white cliffs have been stained orange and red by oxides filtering down from above. Between crossings 17 and 18 are some of the best cliff views on the track, and it is here for the first time that the creek can be seen actively eroding the sandstone walls, creating overhangs and rockfalls. Cathedral Cave is an impressive site with a physical grandeur that surpasses that of the art gallery. Whilst there are some motifs found at both sites, there are also some that are exclusive to either. Cathedral Cave is thought to have been a habitation site, whereas the art gallery is thought to have been primarily ceremonial in function. Adjacent to Cathedral Cave lies the mouth of Bawinda Gorge. The first 500 metres of Bawinda is spectacular and well worth a look, but take care on the uneven, boulder-strewn creek bed. Bawinda is an indigenous word meaning thunder, and it's a name worth remembering, as if you hear thunder whilst in Bawinda Gorge, it's time to leave. Bawinda has a large catchment and is also subject to flash flooding. At the far end of the main track lies Big Bend. This is a campsite with toilet facilities situated in a picturesque bend of Carnarvon Creek. It's a great place to take a break after the walk up the track and give your legs a rest. That covers all the sites and tracks within the main walking track system in the gorge. Remember to pack your track map, take adequate amounts of water, stay on the designated paths and spend a bit of time at each of the sites in order to get to know them. After all, it has taken 27 million years to create these experiences for you. It makes sense to sit down for a while and take everything in. There are remote trails accessible from the gorge, but they are for experienced walkers only. Those intending to travel into the gorge's remote areas are required to contact the rangers prior to departure. From all of us here at the gorge, we wish you safe and enjoyable walking.